Okay, so we have ourselves another square root function. So again, we know that the issue is that we can't have anything inside the square root, right? So we can figure out our domain, and we can even figure out our range, which we have on the other ones. If you look back to the other problems, like our original square root function, like the function of square root of x is right over here. So we know our domain was x is greater than or equal to 0. And if you look up, because we're above the y-axis, we know that our range is also y is greater than or equal to 0, okay? And that's for now. And then if we go back to this big doodaddy that we did over here, when I graphed the function over here, again, your y values are always above the x-axis, so your range is going to be y is greater than or equal to 0. Now, it will not always be that way, so that's a good question. But in this instance, and in our case for our purposes right now, that's exactly what we're going to do, okay? So now, I want to find out what the general slope is, but before I do that, I have to find out what my domain and range are and get a cute little picture of what the graph looks like. So the first thing is my domain. Again, I need everything inside the square root to be, that's right, greater than or equal to 0. So we're going to do 2 plus 3x is greater than or equal to 0. Subtract 2 from both sides, so I get 3x is greater than or equal to negative 2. Divide both sides by 3, so I get x is greater than or equal to negative 2/3. X is greater than or equal to negative 2/3 means negative 2/3 and anything to the right. So you could do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So just think about that. There's infinitely many solutions there. So now if I want to do a quick table, you know, I love my little xy table. I will always start with this number, right? So I have negative 2/3, and then I can go to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. Okay, just to get an idea on what the y values are going to be like. So negative 2/3, if I plug negative 2/3 in here, I am going to get 0. If I plug 0 in here, I get the square root of 2 plus 3 times 0. That cancels out. I get the square root of 2, but there's a negative on the outside, so this is a negative square root of 2. If I plug a 1 in here, right, no matter what happens, whatever happens to this value, I'm always multiplying this by negative 1. So you will always notice that my y values, no matter what I plug in here for x, are always going to be, you got it, always going to be negative. So this is going to be negative square root of 5. If I plug in a 2, that's 6/8. So this is the negative square root of 8, which is equal to negative 2 root 2, right? If I plug in a 3, that's 9/11. So that's negative square root of 11. If I plug in a 4, that's 12. So that's the negative square root of 14. If I plug in 5, that's negative square root of 17. So now when I go to graph this guy, okay, at negative 2/3, right, I'm at 0. At 0, I am at negative root 2, right? At 1, sorry, I'm going the wrong way. No, I'm not. At 1, I have negative root 5. At 2, I'm down here, down here, down here. So again, it's going to look like, again, a parabola that looks like it's sideways. So now if I said to you, if my domain is all reals where you're greater than or equal to 0, then my range is going to be, based on this, what do you think it's going to be, guys? Yep, it's going to be y is less than or equal to 0. Now, that's not true for every single square root function, like I said earlier, but it is in this particular instance, okay? So let's go ahead and find out what our general slope is. And again, if I find the slope between any 2 points on here and I draw a line, my line is falling, so that means my slope, my general slope, is going to come out to be a negative number, okay? So now, I'm going to do my g of x plus h. So that's going to equal negative square root of 2 plus 3x plus 3h, right? Why do I do that? Because I can. So now, I want to show you something interesting. When I do the slope between my 2 points, right, it's g of x plus h minus g of x all over h. So I have negative square root of 2 plus 3x plus 3h, right, minus a negative square root of 2 plus 3x all over h. If you leave it like this, I'm going to be so mad because 2 negatives give you a, you're right, they give you a positive, okay? So you right now have the negative square root of 2 plus 3x plus 3h plus the square root of 2 plus 3x all over h, okay? So now, what's interesting to me is I have a negative here and a positive here, okay? So if I had something like, let me just pull a piece of paper over here. So if I had something like negative 3 plus 4, can I rewrite that as 4 minus 3? If I have like negative x plus 7, can I write that as 7 minus x? Aren't they doing the same exact thing? The reason why I'm saying that is because you can easily reverse these two and make it easier on yourself. So you can write this as 2, the square root of 2 plus 3x minus the square root of 2 plus 3x plus 3h all over h. You can rewrite it like that, so that way it doesn't get confusing when you multiply by the conjugate, because that's exactly what we're going to multiply by. So now when I multiply by the conjugate, it's going to be, why don't you guys hit pause and see if you get what I get, okay? So anyway, I'm going to multiply this by 2 plus 3x plus the square root of 2 plus 3x plus 3h all over the same thing, the square root of 2 plus 3x plus the square root of 2 plus 3x plus 3h. And I hope you guys had the wherewithal to go your good old parentheses, parentheses, parentheses. And then when I do that, this times this is just 2 plus 3x minus, I hope you use parentheses. Please tell me you did. Now, not I hope, you would better use parentheses, okay? So 2 plus 3x plus 3h all over h times all that junk down there, right? Because I'm multiplying all of this out. I'm skipping that times that plus that times that in my FOIL because I know they are going to, yes, they are going to cancel. Okay, so I can cut that corner because I know that little rule because I showed it out. I did it before. I saw the pattern. I'm like, oh, isn't that delightful? When you multiply by a conjugate, your two inner terms always wind up canceling. So anyway, so now again, do not stop. Keep going. 2 plus 3x minus 2 minus 3x minus 3h all over h times all of this hunka-dunka junk, okay? So 2 plus 3x plus the square root of 2 plus 3x plus 3h, okay? And I'm going to have to shoot off to another piece of paper, so we're just going to move this up. And now we can combine our like terms, because you know how I feel about that, or just get everything out of there. And everything cancels except that negative 3h, so we get negative 3h over h times all that hunka-dunka junka. So 2 plus 3x plus the square root of 2 plus 3x plus 3h. Stop doing that. And the screen keeps going dark on me. And then cancel out your h's. And now you are left with negative 3 over all that hunka-dunka. So 2 plus 3x plus the square root of 2 plus 3x plus 3h. Okay? So this is our general slope for g of x is equal to the negative square root of 2 plus 3x. And again, if you look at that, it's going to look like this. And all of our slopes are negative, and that's why this came out to be a negative number. Okay? It's your turn. So online, you're going to see that I have problems that I want you guys to try out that involve square roots. Yes, you're going to do rational functions, linear functions, and quadratic functions, so that way you guys know what to do in terms of finding the general slope for each type of function. Have a good one, and I'll see you Tuesday.